The fork clattered against the porcelain plate like a gunshot in the tense hush of the dining room, gravy splattering across the white tablecloth as Aunt Marlene's face twisted into a mask of revulsion. God help us, Christopher. You've gone and turned the boy into one of you. Parading that filth under our roof like it's the damn Pride Parade. Her words sliced through the air, aimed straight at the heart of the 16-year-old hunched beside me. His small frame trembling as if the very foundations of our Midwestern family farmhouse were crumbling beneath him. In that instant, as tears welled in his wide green eyes and my own fists clenched under the table, I knew this Thanksgiving visit to my childhood home in rural Ohio had just shattered into something irreversible. A betrayal not just of blood, but of the fragile secrets we'd all sworn to bury. I am Christopher Hale, a man who'd spent the last decade building a life in the rainy embrace of Seattle with my partner James, piecing together a family from the fragments of our pasts. James, with his easy laugh and calloused hands from years as a carpenter, had been my anchor since we met at a grief support group 8 years ago. Two broken souls finding solace in each other's quiet strength. We'd fostered kids on the edge, the ones the system chewed up and spat out, because that's what you do when you've lost too much to stay silent. Our latest charge was Eli, a wiry kid with a mop of unruly auburn hair and eyes that held storms older than his years. Eli wasn't mine by blood, but he'd wormed his way into my chest like a second heartbeat after 6 months under our roof. He was the boy hiding the wound, the one we'd promised to protect when the courts handed him over, fresh from a string of foster homes that had left him more scar than skin. The drive from Seattle to Ohio had been a gauntlet of bad decisions masked as optimism. James had squeezed my knee at the Iowa border, his voice low over the hum of the old pickup's engine. "It'll be fine, Chris. Your folks have mellowed. And Eli? Kid's tougher than he looks. He'll charm him with that guitar of his." I'd nodded, forcing a smile, but the knot in my gut told a different story. My family wasn't the rainbow flag-waving type. They were the salt-of-the-earth farmers who'd whispered prayers for my lost soul since I came out at 22, right after Dad's heart attack. Mom sent passive-aggressive Christmas cards with Bible verses underlined in red pen. My sister Marlene, ever the golden child, had married a deacon and birthed 3 picture-perfect kids, all while shooting me pitying glances at reunions. Inviting us, me, James, and Eli, for Thanksgiving was my Hail Mary, a bid to bridge the chasm before Eli aged out of the system and I lost my shot at proving family could mean more than genetics. We'd arrived late Wednesday, the farmhouse glowing like a beacon in the crisp November dusk, cornfields stripped bare under a sky bruised purple. Mom enveloped me in a hug that smelled of lavender and regret, her frail arms whispering apologies she never voiced. Dad grunted from his recliner, eyes fixed on the TV's football flicker, but he patted Eli's shoulder with a roughness that passed for affection. Marlene swept in with her brood, her husband Pastor Tom trailing like a shadow, all pious smiles and firm handshakes. Eli hung back, duffel slung over one shoulder, his sneakers scuffing the welcome mat as if testing the threshold. James shot me that look, the one that said, "We're in this together," and we unloaded the car with pies and a bottle of bourbon I knew Dad would pretend not to notice. Dinner the next night started with the usual rituals. Grace led by Tom, turkey carved with ceremonial precision, stories of bountiful harvests and Little League triumphs. Eli sat between James and me, picking at his mashed potatoes, his silence a shield I'd seen him wield in courtrooms and therapy sessions alike. He was a master at fading into walls, a skill honed from years bouncing between homes where love came with strings or fists. We'd learned bits of his story in fragments. Parents lost to opioids when he was 8, aunts who pawned him off like yesterday's news, a last placement with an uncle whose discipline left bruises the social worker couldn't ignore. When he landed with us, Eli was a ghost, speaking in monosyllables, flinching at raised voices. But James had coaxed him out with late-night woodshop sessions, teaching him to plane oak into something solid, while I'd read him Vonnegut under the covers, laughing at the absurdity until his chuckles broke free. It was the pie that undid us. Apple, Mom's specialty, steaming in the farmhouse kitchen as we migrated from the dining room. Eli had slipped outside earlier, guitar case in hand, to strum by the old swing set under the stars, his ritual for shaking off crowds. James and I cleared plates, our fingers brushing in that secret language of touches, when Marlene cornered me by the sink. "Christopher," she hissed, her voice a venomous whisper. I saw the way that boy looks at my Tommy, lingering glances like he's, my blood iced over. Tommy was her youngest, 12 and all gangly limbs and innocent curiosity, who'd taken a shine to Eli's stories of rainy Seattle hikes. "Marlene, that's insane." I shot back, keeping my tone even for Mom's sake, but she wasn't done. "Insane? You're the one who brought him here, flaunting your lifestyle. Dad told me about the letters from your church back home, how they're praying for you to repent. And now this? God's testing us, brother." Her words hung like smoke as Eli wandered back in, cheeks flushed from the chill, guitar slung across his back. He caught the tail end, his eyes darting to me with that feral wariness I'd hoped this trip would erase. James, ever the peacemaker, clapped a hand on Eli's shoulder. "Hey, kiddo, save some pie for the rest of us?" But the damage was sown. By dessert, Marlene's barbs had escalated, veiled at first, then barbed. When Eli reached for seconds and his sleeve rode up, revealing a faded tattoo of a phoenix he'd inked in rebellion last summer, she gasped theatrically. "Lord, what's that mark of the devil?" Dad shifted uncomfortably, Mom's fork trembling mid-air. Then it cracked open. Tommy, oblivious and eager, piped up from across the table. "Eli said he kissed a boy once, Aunt Marlene. Said it felt like fireworks. Like in the movies." The room froze. Eli's face drained of color, his fork slipping from numb fingers. I whipped toward Tommy, but too late. Marlene was on her feet, chair scraping like nails on a chalkboard. "He what? Under my roof? With my son?" Her scream echoed off the knotty pine walls, eyes blazing at Eli as if he'd unleashed Armageddon. James lunged to his feet, voice steady as steel. "Marlene, sit down. That's enough." But she whirled on me, finger jabbing like an accusation from the pulpit. "God help us, Christopher. You've gone and turned the boy into one of you. Parading that filth under our roof like it's the damn Pride Parade." Eli bolted then, chair toppling as he fled the kitchen, sobs choking the air behind him. I was after him in a heartbeat, James on my heels, leaving the wreckage of shattered plates and stunned faces. He made it to the guest room upstairs, door slamming like a guillotine. I knocked softly, heart hammering. "Eli? It's me. Open up, buddy." Silence, then a muffled wail that twisted my insides. James leaned against the wall, jaw clenched, whispering, "This is on them, Chris. Not us." But I knew better. The wound wasn't just Eli's secret kiss spilled like cheap wine. It was the echo of my own coming out, the family prayers that branded me sinner, the years of distance that left me hollow. We coaxed him out eventually, James with hot cocoa and promises of escape, me with arms that wrapped around his shaking form on the bed. He curled into me like a fern in frost, whispering, "I didn't mean to." Tommy asked, and I thought it was safe here, like with you and James. His confession spilled then, in halting breaths. The boy from his last foster home, stolen kisses in the barn loft that ended in beatings when the uncle found out. The wound he'd hid, not just the bruises, but the shame that bloomed like black mold, convincing him love was a trap that snapped shut. I thought if I told, they'd send me away again. But now, they'll hate me forever. That night, as snow dusted the fields outside, James and I sat vigil in the rocking chair, Eli asleep between us. Downstairs, the murmur of voices rose like a tide. Marlene's shrill defenses, Dad's gruff interventions, Mom's tearful pleas. Betrayal hung thick. My sister, who'd sworn sisterly love, had twisted Eli's vulnerability into ammunition, outing him to exorcise her own discomfort. By dawn, the fault lines had deepened. Dad cornered me in the mudroom, flannel jacket zipped against the cold. "Son, I love you. Always have. But this, bringing that trouble here? Marlene's right to be upset." His words landed like a gut punch. The man who'd taught me to bait hooks now baiting his own regrets. James overheard from the doorway, his face a storm cloud. "Trouble? That's your grandson in all but blood, sir. Hiding scars you can't imagine. The conflict simmered through Friday, a powder keg with a lit fuse. Marlene demanded we leave, her husband nodding like a bobblehead saint. While Mom baked pies as peace offerings, her eyes red-rimmed. Eli withdrew further, strumming mournful chords on his guitar that seeped under doors like smoke signals. James and I walked the back 40, boots crunching frost-kissed stubble. His hand finding mine in the open where no eyes judged. "We came to heal, not to bleed," he said, voice raw. "But maybe this is the rip, the one that lets the light in." I pulled him close, foreheads touching, tasting salt from unshed tears. Our love had always been the quiet revolution. Stolen glances in support groups, first nights tangled in sheets that smelled of pine and possibility, building a home from reclaimed wood and second chances. James had proposed on a ferry to Bainbridge, ring hidden in a thermos of coffee, his knee hitting the deck as he laughed through nerves. "Marry me, Hale? Let's make the bureaucrats work overtime." We'd said vows in a backyard ceremony, Eli, then a wide-eyed 11-year-old fresh from intake, holding the rings with grubby fists. But here, in the heartland's unyielding soil, that foundation cracked. Saturday brought the climax, a tempest that broke with Eli's scream from the barn. We found him there, rake in hand, face streaked with fury as he faced down Tommy. Innocent catalyst turned unwitting villain under Marlene's coaching. "You lied. Mom said you tricked me, that you're sick." Eli's voice broke, rake clattering as he swung wild, not connecting but close enough to send the boy scrambling. James hauled Tommy back, stern but kind. "Easy, son. Words hurt worse than sticks." I wrapped Eli in my coat, his body racked with sobs that clawed at my throat. "They hate me, Chris. Like they hate you. I should have stayed hidden." The betrayal peaked that afternoon in the living room, a family summit gone nuclear. Marlene hurled accusations. "You're poisoning them all," while Dad thundered about family values, his Bible slapping the coffee table like Judgment Day. Mom wept silently, clutching rosary beads, her love a casualty in the crossfire. James, my rock, finally snapped, voice booming with the authority of a man who'd lost his own brother to AIDS in the 90s. "Enough. This isn't about sin or sickness. It's about a kid who's been kicked down so many times he's afraid to stand. Christopher and I chose him because we know that pain. We built a life from it, not in spite of it. You call this love? Shaming a boy for feeling what goddamn well put in his heart." His words hung, a gauntlet thrown. Silence swallowed the room, broken only by Eli's soft gasp from the stairs, where he'd crept to listen. In that hush, something shifted, a fracture in the armor. Dad's shoulders slumped, eyes meeting mine for the first time without evasion. I failed you, son. After your mother and we prayed wrong. Feared losing you like we lost your brother." The admission cracked him open, tears carving tracks down weathered cheeks. My brother Tim, dead at 25 from a farm accident we'd all whispered was suicide, had been the ghost between us, his unspoken queerness a shadow I'd carried alone. Marlene recoiled, then softened, her hand reaching for Mom's. "I was scared, Chris. For Tommy, for us. But, God, what have I done?" Healing didn't come in floods, but in trickles, human, messy, achingly real. That evening, as twilight bled crimson over the fields, Eli and I sat on the porch swing, James whittling a small wooden bird beside us. Dad joined us haltingly, offering a thermos of coffee laced with bourbon. "Tell me about Seattle, boy," he rumbled to Eli, voice gruff but genuine. Eli hesitated, then spoke. Of rainy markets and ferries slicing fog, of James teaching him to swing a hammer true. Words flowed, tentative at first, then steady, the wound airing like a bandage peeled back to sun. Marlene appeared later, Tommy in tow, her apology a whisper. "I was wrong, so wrong. Forgive me?" Eli nodded, small hand in Tommy's, their laughter a balm as they chased fireflies in the yard. By Sunday, as we packed the truck under a sky scrubbed clean by wind, the farmhouse felt less like a battlefield and more like hallowed ground, scarred but fertile. Mom hugged Eli fierce, slipping a quilt into his arms, her eyes promising letters without verses. Dad clasped James' hand, murmuring, "Take care of my boys." Marlene waved from the porch, her smile tentative, a bridge half-built. Driving west, the heartland blurring to plains, Eli leaned forward from the back seat. "That wasn't so bad, right? The fireworks. They didn't explode everything." James chuckled, hand on my thigh. "Nah, kid. Sometimes they light the way." We crossed into Washington weeks later, snow-capped Cascades welcoming us home. But the real return was internal, a mending we'd carry forward. Eli started journaling, pages filling with sketches of barns and boys' silhouettes, his therapy sessions blooming with truths once buried. James and I renewed our commitment in a quiet ceremony by the sound, Eli officiating with a grin that split his face. My family? Calls came sporadic at first. Mom's recipes, Dad's harvest reports, Marlene's awkward updates on Tommy's first crush, a girl, but she'd learned not to assume. Betrayal's sting faded to ache, then lesson. Love isn't flawless architecture, but resilient timber, bent but unbowed. In the end, that Ohio visit didn't turn wrong, it turned necessary. It unearthed Eli's hidden wound, yes, but also ours. The fractures and blood ties that only honesty could seal. Healing, we learned, isn't erasure. It's the brave act of naming the scars, then tracing them with fingers gentle as dawn. And in the quiet of our Seattle nights, with James' breath warm on my neck and Eli's guitar humming lullabies down the hall, I knew we'd forged something unbreakable. A family not born, but chosen, fierce and forever American in its stubborn hope. The miles unspooled behind us like frayed thread, the interstate a gray ribbon stitching Ohio's flatlands to the promise of evergreens. But the real unraveling had already happened back at the farmhouse. Eli dozed in the back seat, his head lolling against the window, auburn curls catching the fleeting sun. James drove, one hand on the wheel, the other resting on my knee, a touch that grounded me when the echoes of Marlene's scream still rattled in my skull like loose change. "You okay, Chris?" he asked, voice low, eyes flicking to the rearview. I nodded, but the lie tasted bitter. Okay. We'd survived the storm, sure, but survival's a far cry from whole. That night in the motel off I-80, as Eli snored softly in the adjoining room, James pulled me into the shower, water scalding our skin as if to wash away the grime of judgment. We didn't speak much, just held on, his lips brushing my temple, a silent vow that we'd weather whatever came next. Back in Seattle, the rain greeted us like an old friend, pattering against the roof of our craftsman bungalow in Capitol Hill. The neighborhood thrummed with its eclectic pulse. Rainbow flags fluttering from porches, coffee shops buzzing with queer poets and tech bros nursing lattes. Our home was a testament to second acts, reclaimed barnwood floors scarred from James' projects, walls lined with Eli's finger paint abstracts from his early days with us. He bounded inside first, duffel thumping down, already rummaging for his guitar. "I'm gonna practice that riff you showed me," he called to James, who ruffled his hair with a grin. "Make it sing, kid." I watched from the doorway, chest tight with gratitude. This was our sanctuary, hard-won from nights when foster paperwork loomed like eviction notices, when Eli's nightmares had us trading shifts like weary sentinels. But the wound lingered, festering in quiet moments. Eli threw himself into school, Roosevelt High, with its GSA club that met in the library, rainbow stickers peeling at the edges. He made friends fast. Mia, the non-binary artist with blue-streaked hair who sketched him during lunch. Javier, the soccer jock who'd come out last spring and now captained the team with unapologetic flair. Yet at home, he'd zone out mid-conversation, fork circling peas untouched, eyes distant as if replaying Marlene's venom. "It's nothing," he'd mutter when I probed, but his sketches told another tale. Dark scribbles of figures turning away, flames licking at their heels. Therapy helped. Dr. Lena, with her no-nonsense bob and office smelling of chamomile, coaxed out the barbs. "Your aunt's words weren't about you, Eli. They were her fear, projected like a bad movie." He nodded, but the flinch remained. James noticed too in the ways that mattered. He'd linger after woodshop sessions in the garage, sawdust clinging to his jeans, asking casual like, "That phoenix on your arm, remind me what it stands for?" Eli would trace the ink, faded now but fierce, murmuring, "Rising from ashes. Like us, right?" James would clap his back, eyes crinkling. Damn straight. Their bond was the glue. Unspoken, tactile, the kind of love that builds without fanfare. Me? I was the worrier, pacing the kitchen at 2 a.m., phone in hand, debating calls to mom. James would find me there, brew decaf and pull me to the couch. "Give him time, babe. Roots don't uproot overnight." He'd kiss my knuckles, slow and deliberate, reminding me why we'd fought for this life. Not perfection, but persistence. Christmas crept in on a chill wind, strings of lights twinkling against the perpetual drizzle. We decked the halls Eli's way, mismatched ornaments from thrift dives, a tree topped with a carved wooden star James had whittled during a power outage. Invites went out, Mia and Javier for eggnog, neighbors for carols. But the real test was the mail, mom's package arriving FedEx. A quilt wrapped around jars of peach preserves, a note in her looping script. "Thinking of you all this holy season. Love covers a multitude. Mom." No verses, just coordinates. Eli unfolded the quilt on his bed, fingers tracing the stitches, a ghost of a smile. "It's warm, like her hugs. Progress, fragile as new ice." Then came the call from Marlene, mid-December, her voice crackling over the line like static from a distant station. "Chris? It's me." Pause heavy as lead. We saw a counselor, Tom and me, about what happened." I gripped the counter, James pausing his biscuit dough to listen. "And," she exhaled, shaky, "we're sorry, truly. Tommy asks about Eli, wants to know if he can visit sometime. If you'd have us." The apology landed soft. Not a thunderclap but a thaw. I glanced at James, who mouthed your call. "Yeah, Marlene." Doors open. But slow, Eli's still mending. She wept then, relief or regret, I couldn't tell. Hung up promising photos of her garden, an olive branch in pixels. New Year's brought the high tide of hope. We rang it in on Alki Beach, bonfire crackling against the Sound's lap, Eli toasting with sparkling cider. To fireworks that don't burn, Mia led a chant, Javier drummed on a cooler, and James pulled me aside. Mistletoe improvised from seaweed. "Here's to us, Hale, the misfits who made it." Our kiss tasted of salt and smoke, deep and unhurried, the kind that reaffirms vows without words. Eli caught us, rolling eyes but grinning, acceptance in his shrug. Spring unfurled green and relentless, cherry blossoms carpeting Fremont like confetti from a forgotten parade. Eli turned 17 in April, party at the woodshop. Friends carving initials into cedar slabs, cakes smeared with frosting wars. He gifted James a guitar pick he'd etched with a hammer and heart. Me, a drawing of the three of us on that Ohio porch, figures linked, no shadows between. "For the healing," he said, shy. My throat closed. "Love you, kid." The wound was scarring over, pink and tender, but proof of life. Yet conflict stirred anew in May. A letter from the agency. Eli's case review loomed. Permanency hearing in July. They might place him elsewhere if we don't push for adoption. The social worker droned over coffee, her clipboard a barrier. James and I had talked it. Endless nights debating finances, futures, but Eli? He overheard, bursting into the kitchen wild-eyed. "You think I'll leave? After everything?" His voice cracked, old fears roaring back. "I'm not some pit stop." James knelt, hands on his shoulders. "Hey, no. We're fighting for you, Eli. Papers and all." But doubt gnawed. My family's history whispered failures. Tim's unspoken plea, my own exile. The climax crested on a humid June evening. Storm clouds boiling over the Olympics. Eli vanished after school. Phone dead. Guitar left behind. Panic clawed my gut as James and I scoured the neighborhood. Parks, alleys, the pier where he fished for calm. Mia texted he was talking about running. Mr. H. said the hearing's a trap. We found him at Discovery Park, perched on a driftwood log, waves gnashing like teeth. "I can't do it," he choked when we approached, rain starting to spit. "What if they say no? Send me back to hiding?" James sat beside him, arm around shoulders. "Then we appeal. March on City Hall. Hell, I'll build a treehouse and hide you there." Eli laughed, wet and broken. I joined them, the three of us huddling as thunder rolled. "You're ours, Eli. Blood or not. That Ohio mess? It showed us we heal together." The hearing came, courtroom sterile as a surgeon's tray. Eli in button-down, fidgeting. Us in suits that itched like lies. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair, reviewed files thick as novels. Marlene even flew out. Surprise witness, her testimony a redemption arc. "I failed him once, but family mends. Let them keep him." Mom and Dad joined via Zoom, Dad's voice gravel. "He's hale enough for me." The gavel fell, permanency granted. Adoption papers signed in a blur of tears and ink. Summer sealed it, road trip to the Badlands, tent pitched under starfields, stories swapped around campfires. Eli strummed folk tunes, James carved totems. I grilled trout that tasted of victory. Betrayal's ghost faded to anecdote, the wound now a tattoo of strength. Back home, as leaves turned, Eli started dating. A quiet boy named Rowan from GSA, handholds tentative as new buds. We watched from kitchen windows, James murmuring, "Look at him bloom." Yeah. Healing wasn't the absence of pain, but the presence of us, flawed, fierce, forever entwined. Fall painted the city in rust and gold, the kind of Seattle autumn where the air crisps just enough to forgive the endless gray. Eli's senior year kicked off with a buzz. College apps scattered across the dining table like fallen leaves, Rowan a constant shadow at his side, their laughter filtering through the house like sunlight through blinds. James and I navigated the new normal. Parent-teacher nights where I fielded questions about Eli's adjustment with practiced ease. Weekend hikes up Rattlesnake Ledge where he'd race ahead, hollering triumphs back down. Our love, too, deepened in the domestic rhythms. James surprised dinners of pot roast simmering when I dragged in from the office, my thumb tracing the laugh lines around his eyes as we debriefed the day's chaos. "We're doing all right, aren't we?" he'd say, and I'd pull him close, breathing in the scent of sawdust and certainty. "Better than all right. We're golden." But wounds, even healed, leave echoes, ripples that lap at the shore when least expected. For Eli, it surfaced in November, a letter from Ohio tucked into his backpack like contraband. Marlene's script, looping and earnest. "Tommy's asking about you again. Wants to know if you'd show him Seattle sometime. We're coming west for a conference. Thought maybe dinner? No pressure." He showed it to me over breakfast, cereal spoon hovering. "What if it's a trap? Like last time?" His eyes, those storm-green depths, held the farmhouse ghost. James, buttering toast, chimed in. "Then we set boundaries. Dinner in public, early out if it sours. But kid, giving him a shot? That's your power, not theirs." Eli chewed his lip, then nodded. "Okay, for Tommy." The reunion unfolded at a Pike Place diner, fog rolling off the sound like cigarette smoke. Marlene and Tom arrived flustered, suitcases in tow, Tommy all elbows and braces, eyes wide at the fish-throwing spectacle outside. Hugs were awkward, Marlene stiff, then softening. Tom's handshake firm with unspoken amends. Eli sat across from Tommy, knees bouncing under the Formica table. But when the kid launched into tales of Pee Wee football, the ice thawed. "You play?" Tommy asked, burger halfway to mouth. Eli grinned. "Nah, but James taught me to throw a spiral. Wanna see after?" Laughter bubbled, real and unforced, as Marlene watched, her smile tentative. "You've grown, Eli. Strong." He ducked his head. "Yeah, thanks to them." A nod to us, James squeezing my hand under the table. Yet betrayal's shadow lingered, creeping in over pie. Tom, clearing his throat, ventured. "We've been reading up on families like yours. The church group's starting a dialogue." Marlene elbowed him gently. "What he's saying is we're trying. Not perfect, but... Eli's fork paused. Trying's good. But no sermons, okay? I just want to be me. The table hushed, then Tom nodded. Fair. No sermons. As we parted, Tommy hugged Eli fierce, whispering, You're cool, man. Like a big bro. Driving home, Eli exhaled long. It didn't suck. James chuckled from shotgun. High praise. That night, as rain drummed the roof, Eli texted Tommy a photo of the Space Needle-lit neon. First bridge of many. Winter holidays brought the full mend. A tapestry woven from old threads and new. Mom and Dad flew out, suitcases stuffed with Tupperware of chili and skepticism softened by time. Dad took to James like dry tinder to flame, bonding over tackle boxes in the garage, swapping lies about the one that got away. Good man you got, Dad grunted one evening, nursing a beer on the porch. Treats you right. I clapped his back, throat thick. He does. We do. Mom fussed over Eli, teaching him her pie crust trick, her stories of my boyhood laced with laughter instead of lament. Marlene's family joined for New Year's, the house bursting, kids sledding in Discovery Park, adults nursing mulled wine by the fire. When Eli and Rowan stole a kiss under mistletoe, no one blinked. Marlene even smiled, raising her glass. To unexpected gifts. Spring 2026 bloomed with Eli's acceptance letter, UW, full ride for environmental science, his passion for reclaiming scarred lands mirroring our own. Graduation was a blur of caps and gowns. James whooping loudest, me snapping photos through tears. The party spilled into our backyard, lanterns strung like stars, Rowan toasting. To Eli hail, the phoenix who taught us to fly. Later, as embers died, Eli pulled us aside. I wrote something, a poem, scrawled on butcher paper. Lines of hidden fires, family forges, loves that heal without erasing hurt. For you guys, and Ohio. We read it aloud, voices cracking, the wound now a wellspring. Conflict reared gentle that summer. A final test as Eli prepped for dorm life. Doubts crept. Late-night confessions over ice cream. What if college chews me up? What if I'm still broken? James, ever the builder, countered. Broken? Nah, your barn would. Tough, beautiful, full of stories. I added. And we're always your foundation. Call at 3 a.m., we'll drive. Rowan grounded him too. Their relationship a quiet romance of shared playlists and stargazing. No dramatics, just depth. By fall, drop-off day dawned clear. Seattle's skyline winking farewell as we unloaded boxes into McCarty Hall. Eli hugged us fierce in the dorm lobby, Rowan waiting with open arms. Love you, dads, he said, the word slipping easy earned. Driving back, James wiped his eyes. Empty nest, huh? I laughed, hand in his. Nah, just a bigger nest. That night, we walked the waterfront. City lights dancing on water. Our steps synced after years of stumbles. Betrayal's scar? Faint now, a reminder. Pain forges, doesn't define. Eli thrived. Texts buzzing with biolabs and crushes. Visits home laced with laundry and lectures. Holidays rotated. Ohio 1 year. Seattle the next. Bridges spanning the miles. Marlene became Aunt Mar, sending care packages of jerky and jokes. Dad, Grandpa Gruff, zooming fishing tips. The healing rippled outward. Eli volunteering at youth centers, sharing his story in hushed circles. A beacon for boys hiding wounds. Years folded like accordions. Eli's graduation, James and I toasting on the ferry, pride swelling. He met Alex, a med student with kind eyes and a laugh like thunder. Their wedding in the Cascades. Us walking him down the aisle, vows echoing our own. Grandkids came, towhead whirlwinds with Eli's fire, chasing fireflies in Ohio summers. No secrets shuddered. In our twilight, James and I on the porch swing he'd built, gray hairs mingling, hands clasped. Worth every fight, he murmured. I nodded, watching stars prick the dusk. Every scar. The boy who'd hid his wound? He'd revealed ours, mended them all. In America's vast, bruised heart, we'd found the truest home. Not flawless, but whole. Decades distilled to snapshots. But the core, the raw, beating heart, stayed rooted in that Ohio November, when a boy's blurted truth cracked us open like an overripe peach, juice sticky and sweet beneath the bruise. Eli's life unfolded in chapters we'd only glimpsed. Post-grad fieldwork in Yellowstone, mapping burned scars into rebirth maps. Alex's proposal under auroras in Alaska, ring glinting like a promise. Their twins, Riley and Sage, gender-fluid whirlwinds with Eli's curls and Alex's dimples, filled our holidays with chaos and choruses, demanding Grandpa Chris's ghost stories, Papa James's whittled wonders. Tell the farmhouse one. Riley would beg, cross-legged on the rug, Sage nodding fervent. I'd spin it soft. Not the scream, but the swing-set strums, the quilt's warmth, how family mends like kintsugi, gold-veined cracks. Yet no arc lacks shadow. Conflict whispered in later years, subtle as autumn fog. Eli's book, Ashes to Evergreens, Reclaiming Hidden Wounds, dropped in 2042, a bestseller blending memoir and ecology, his Ohio outing the pivotal blaze. Reviews lauded its humanism, but backlash brewed from fringes. Online trolls dredging Marlene's old church ties, accusing indoctrination. Eli weathered it with our steel, press tour with Alex at his side, panels where he'd say, hurt doesn't define, response does. But privately, over Easter brunch, he confessed the toll. Echoes, Dad. Like that screams still in my ears some nights. James, slower now with arthritis but sharp as ever, squeezed his hand. Then we shout louder. Love's the best echo. Marlene, gray-streaked and grandkid spoiling, called post-launch. Proud of you, nephew. We all are. Redemption's long game. My own reckoning came quieter. A doctor's note in spring 45. Early Parkinson's, the tremble starting in my left hand like a fault line's warning. James took it stoic, researching trials, adapting the house with ramps he'd curse while building. Won't slow us, he'd grumble, kissing my knuckles. Eli flew in weekly, twins in tow, turning visits to therapy. Yoga in the yard, stories that steadied my shakes. You're the rock, Dad, he'd say. But I saw the role reverse. His strength the true anchor. Betrayal's old sting? It fueled gratitude for Marlene's care packages of adaptive gadgets. Dad's. Gone 5 years now. Letters urging, keep swinging, son. Mom. Frail in assisted living. FaceTimed weekly. Her I love you unadorned. Climax revisited in 48. A family summit redux, not in fury, but farewell. Mom's decline swift. Pneumonia claiming her in June. We gathered in Cleveland. Hospice room humming with monitors. Her bed a island amid the beeps. Eli arrived with Alex and the kids, James and I last, my cane tapping resolve. Marlene met us in the hall, eyes rimmed red. She waited for you all. Inside, Mom's gaze found mine, hand frail in mine. Christopher, my boy, forgiven? The word hung, old wound surfacing. I leaned close, voice steady. Nothing to forgive, Mom. We healed. She smiled, faint, then turned to Eli. You, bright light. He kissed her forehead, twins chorusing goodbyes. As she slipped away that dusk, window framing a sunset like stained glass, we held vigil. No sermons, just stories. Her pies, Dad's grunts, the quilt that bridged us. Funeral was Methodist, Tom's eulogy balanced. Faith's grace, not fire. Graveside, under oaks whispering, Eli read his poem, voice carrying. From hidden ash, we rise woven. Marlene and I stood shoulder to shoulder, her whisper. We made it, brother. Yeah. We did. Healing's harvest bloomed post-loss. Annual retreats to the farmhouse, now Marlene's. Twins chasing chickens, Eli and Alex planning expansions. Greenhouse for native plants, symbol of regrowth. James and I wintered there once, snow blanketing fields, our love a quiet fire. Best decision that visit, he said one night, rocking beside me. Turned wrong to right. I traced his wrinkles, earned like tree rings. To us. Eli's legacy grew, TED Talk viral, foundation funding queer youth sanctuaries. Ohio chapter dedicated to Tim's memory. Rowan, Eli's old flame, reconnected as mentor, their friendship a full circle grace. The twins? Riley came out non-binary at 12, Sage queer at 14, no hiding, just hugs. Like Uncle Eli's stories, they'd say. In my 70s, Tremors managed, James and I volunteered at the center. Story hours for Foster's, his carvings donated, my tale's the hook. One boy, wide-eyed like Eli once, clutched my sleeve. You think it'll get better? I knelt, steady. It does, if you let the light in. Our end came entwined, as we'd lived. James 1st, 52. Heart giving out mid-laugh over brunch, peaceful, plate of eggs untouched. I followed months later, pneumonia's irony, Eli at bedside. Love you, dads, he whispered. Alex holding his hand, grandkids clustered. Forever. Eli scattered us on the sound, ashes mingling with waves, then drove to Ohio alone, guitar in passenger seat. At the farmhouse, under stars, he strummed. A melody of hooks and heels, family gathered, wounds long gilded. The boy who'd hid? He'd revealed the map to mending, a American odyssey of heart and home. Word count, 998, end of file 4. Note, to reach exactly 6,000 words across 6 files. This and subsequent files adjust for continuity and depth. Total story arcs complete in file 6. The epilogue of our story isn't a tidy bow, but a horizon, endless, beckoning, etched with the lines of lives intersected and transformed. Eli, in his 60s now, gray threading his curls like silver rivers, stands often at that old swing set in Ohio, the wood weathered but sturdy, a monument to the boy he was and the man he became. The farmhouse, passed to Tommy's daughter. A social worker with Marlene's fire and Tom's quiet faith, hosts annual gatherings. Foster's mingling with blood kin, guitars passed hand to hand, stories unfurling like flags in the breeze. Uncle Eli's the legend. The kids say, wide-eyed at tales of Seattle rains and hidden kisses, of a Thanksgiving that could have broken but instead built. Reflecting, the betrayal, Marlene's scream, Dad's gruff silences, Mom's underlined verses. Looms not as villain, but catalyst. It forced the reckoning. My own, buried under years of stoic fatherhood. James, the armor forged from losing kin to plagues of prejudice and pills. We'd entered that visit as guardians, emerged as kin, flawed architects of a family mosaic, each shard a lesson in grace. Eli's wound, that phoenix ink, became our shared sigil. Rise, reclaim, relate. In quieter moments, Eli journals still, pages filling with letters to us. Christopher and James, ghosts in the margins. You taught me hiding hurts worse than truth, he writes. That love's not a visit, but a verb doing the hard mend. Alex, beside him on porch rockers, nods at the words, their hands linked after 50 years. Twins tumbling in the yard. Rowan visits too, elder statesman of the GSA circuit, toasting old flames with decaf. We burned bright, didn't we? The center thrives. Satellites from Seattle to Cleveland, scholarships in Tim's name funding dreams deferred. Eli keynotes at Pride, not with firebrand fury, but humanistic hush. Healing starts when we name the hurt, ours, theirs, the world's. It's American as apple pie and backroads. Messy, resilient, rooted in hope. As the sun dips, painting fields gold, Eli strums soft. A hook of 3 notes, echoing that fateful night. No clatter, no scream, just swings creak and laughter's lift. The wound revealed? It birthed a legacy. Not erasure, but embrace. And in that, the truest happily ever after, human, heartfelt, horizon-bound. But let's rewind, not to dwell, but to honor the threads that wove us tighter post-Ohio. After the adoption, Eli's first year with us was a masterclass in measured miracles. School dances where James taught him the 2-step in the kitchen. My awkward shuffle joining in, laughter drowning nerves. Summers at Lake Chelan. Canoe tipping with deliberate sabotage. Eli's whoops echoing off pines. Holidays evolved. Hanukkah candles beside the tree, James' Jewish roots blending with my lapsed Methodist haze. Eli lighting the shamash with solemn joy. Traditions remix, he'd quip, menorah nestled in boughs. Conflict simmered in small pots too. Teen rebellions like the eyebrow piercing that had me sputtering. James chuckling, "Looks tough, kid. Own it." Or the F on a history paper. Eli slamming doors. "I suck." We'd sit him down with ice cream and autopsy. Not failure, fuel. Betrayal's lesson stuck, he talked it out, no hiding. James and I? Our romance reignited in stolen pockets. Anniversary hike to Mailbox Peak. Lunch packed, his hand in mine on the scramble. "Still my best wrong turn," he'd say, referencing our meet-cute fender bender in 15. Sex was tender, not torrid bodies known as maps. Touches saying "I see you" without frenzy. Eli walked in once, mid-embrace on the couch. He froze, then grinned. "Gross dads." Locked the door. Laughter dissolved awkward, normalizing normal. By Eli's college send-off, the nest felt vast yet full. His room a time capsule of posters and pics. Us toasting with root beer. To flights, not falls. Visits became rituals. Parents' weekends with bad dorm food. Game days hollering till hoarse. Rowan faded gentle, a fond footnote. Eli's heart turned to Sam, a lit major with freckles and fervor. Their campus romance blooming in library stacks. Eli's 20s were wanderlust. AmeriCorps in Appalachia, rebuilding after floods, his hands calloused like James. We visited, bunking in tents, sharing beans from a fire. "This is healing on a hill," he said, surveying scarred slopes. Back home, James retired shop tools for mentorship, guiding at-risk youth. I lobbied for foster reforms, voice hoarse in council chambers. Marlene's family vacations overlapped. Yellowstone 32, geysers erupting like emotions aired. Tommy, now a teacher, confided his bisexuality over Esmores. "Your story, Eli, gave me guts." Circles closed. 30s brought Eli's eco-startup, green tech for urban farms. Alex the steady surgeon spouse. Wedding in the Olympics, rain holding off for vows under cedars. In Scars and Stars, I Choose You, we danced the father-son sway. James cutting in with a twirl, tears mixing with mist. 40s tested. Eli's miscarriage grief, Alex's depression dip. We flew in, holding space with soup and silences. Wounds recur, Eli admitted. But we scar stronger. Our support, unwavering as Ohio had forged. 50s, the twins arrived via surrogate. Riley's curiosity, Sage's sass mirroring Eli's youth. Grandparenting was delight. Bedtime tales of Phoenix farms, James' mini-shops crafting tiny tools. Parkinson slowed me, but Eli's chair yoga, James' adapted adventures kept pace. "We're the elders now," James joked, cane dueling mine. 60s, Eli's book tour. Us tagging along, signing beside him in indie shops. Backlash? He faced it with panels on resilience, trolls blocked like bad weather. 70s, James passing. Eli's eulogy, anchor and artist. Our ashes scattered together. Eli's 40s revisited in his own empty nest, but he filled it with retreats. Foster's strumming under stars. Eli's 70s mirror hours. Journaling legacies, center expansions, family farms in Ohio thriving. The hook, that clattered fork, now legend. The healing, endless, echoing in every embrace. In the end, as Eli rocks on that swing, guitar idle, he whispers to the wind, "Thanks, dads, for the wrong that made us right." Horizon calls, legacy lives, wounds woven to wings.